Gaming to me is sitting in your living room, here on your nice couch, relaxing. You got a nice drink in front of you. You're ready. You sit down. You got your surround sound pumping. That's how these games are meant to be experienced.
You're supposed to be sat in front of your television, with a drink and having a good time. First and foremost, this is your job. I really don't give a shit whether you're comfortable doing this or not. If you are, that's a plus and will most likely, reflect in the commentary as you're relaxed, you're focused, and you're able to do stuff in an efficient manner. But it's not a must. We're the audience, you're the content creator. Act like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy 3 more devices, not do any research, and just hope it works. God fucking damn it.
I believe my current capture setup would work with the PS4 Pro, at least at 1080p, but there is no way to tell until I own one. If not, we'll have to explore a possible workaround later.
Which means more money.
What a waste of fucking money. He can't even capture 4K.
But just that bottom thing, too, of he's like, oh, by the way, this may not work.
A Google
search. So even if you get this fucking...
A Google search. You can fucking Google search PS Pro and the name of your capture card to see if it fucking captures in 4K.
And then he goes on to say, yup, the game blinks like crazy on my TV. This is shit. Oh god, it doesn't work either. LOL, people are full of shit. I'm going to show it one more time. It literally says, step 1 for the PS3. Set your display settings to D terminal connection. Exactly for this reason, to avoid the HDCP problem.
We're not cavemen! We have technology!
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of DSP Tech Fails. And today we're going to go back to a glorious blast from the past. Which was the 2013 capture card Catastrophe, when Phil tried and failed miserably for 4 hours non-stop trying to set up an Elgato capture card. And I already covered this previously if you watched my episode 2 of my Tragic Comedy series, where I covered the whole meltdown that was documented by our Lord and Savior, Evil AJ, all hail. And we're going to bring that back because not only does it work in terms of showing just how shit Phil was to his friend Chris Furtado, who was in the stream desperately trying to help him figure out how to get his Elgato capture card working for the PS3, but also just because it's just so simple to set up. Even if it's your first time, it's so simple to set up an Elgato capture card if you follow the instructions that are literally given to you in the box. And yeah, we're going to go over that, as well as how to set it up, even with the constraints of ancient hardware, because that capture code is really, really old. It's over a decade old, and how you can shoehorn it to work into modern software with a little bit of creativity. And we're going to go into that right here. So sit back and enjoy, because this Tech Fails is going to be a blast. Okay, and to start out this segment, we're going to go into a clip from Slowbeef, when he was on his channel Retsupre talking with a co-host, I believe it was Das Bullshit at the time, who was an on-again, off-again DSP fan over the past decade or so. And they were talking about Phil's style of content creation back then with the camcorder method.
So, a while back, Chip and I had done a video of his where he plays Metal Gear Solid 2, and it's a very odd video because one thing that's weird about Phil is his Let's Plays are camcorder LPs, and I'll give him a bit of credit. They're probably some of the best camcorder LPs in terms of technical meaning. He does center the camera.
If you were to watch it, you would say, is that a camcorder? I think it is, but rather than just immediately like, oh, that camcorder.
Not quite that good, okay. but getting there. Because we saw that the one time that we weren't sure if it was a camcorder LP.
Yeah.
And turned out was, it's a camcorder. But I guess if you were going to do a camcorder Let's Play, that's about the upper tier you can get with it. But what's weird is Phil makes money. He does this for a living. So he could have afforded a capture card for direct capture a long time ago, but just refused to do it.
Right. On the grounds that...
Well, he has a whole video on why he refused to do it.
Oh, he does. Of course he does.
Yes, of course he does. And it's more or less he has no good excuse. And what's really fucked up is he in the same thing where he's recording his camera setup, he shows his computer and he has like a serious like rig, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think like this is not a case where he's can't afford like a cheapo capture device, because even like an RGB cable one runs you like less than $100 nowadays, you know.
So what you're dancing around is that he's just lazy.
No, yeah, I mean yes, but that's not all.
Okay. This is getting more complicated than Harvester.
I know. Tell me about it. Okay, so he's actually extremely stubborn. Is the idea.
All right, and here we're going to go into what led up to Phil finally adopting a direct capture and using capture cards. And we're going to start with him fighting tooth and nail to the bitter end to resist direct capture. And he's going to explain why his method, in his opinion, is superior. And we're going to pull these from clips from the legendary Evil AJ, who was famous for making videos roasting Phil back in 2012 and 2013, all that stuff. And he made his own little montage roasting Phil's arguments as to why his method was better than direct capture. Let's get into it.
What's up, everyone? Darkside Phil here with a special vlog today because it's been quite a while since I did one of these, and a lot of people, I think, have either become, new fans, new viewers, or they never saw the old one. What we've got here is my setup of how I record. Now, as you can see, not direct capture, very different from what everyone else does, and I actually recorded my gameplay in this style probably way before the majority of people out there who actually do. And one last thing, a lot of people say, Phil, you have no excuse, why don't you do direct capture? It would actually be easier than your current setup right now. And to which I respond, it's this simple. I want you to look at my setup. You see the size of my TV? You see the nice subwoofer surround sound speakers I have here behind me? The surround sound speakers, see them? You see that? Most people who do direct capture, here's what they do. Here's their computer. They walk up to their computer and their tiny little fucking monitor, and they sit here and they grab a headset. Here's my headset for my computer, and they put their headset on their ears, and they're playing on a controller here in front of a small monitor, talking into a headset to get their commentary and having the audio of the game go through the headset.
Now get ready. This is where AJ tears into shreds.
It sounds like a woman's voice that did the cat, like when you hear like the lower pitch of it.
Meow.
I wonder if voice actors actually did that.
And somebody caught a sex tape of him having sex with another jock guy.
Wait, is this based on a true story?
Yeah, and then he went away and he became a taxi driver here and erased his identity, and he came up with the name BD Joe, which is like buff dude Joe. I don't know, man.
No, not the controller.
That's not gaming to me, okay? Gaming to me is sitting in your living room, here on your nice couch, relaxing, you got a nice drink in front of you, you're ready, you sit down, you got your surround sound pumping. That's how these games are meant to be experienced. Everyone who's told me to do direct capture, when I challenge them on this, they have no answer. So, the bottom...
Okay, aside from what AJ says here, making a good point about like, hey, people probably don't know what the people that Phil is probably talking to, that he's willing to actually listen to, they're probably not very intelligent to begin with, because Phil always loves being the smartest guy in the room. Okay, and second of all, what Phil literally just said there, he said, doing direct capture, that's not gaming to me. Gaming is about having your own speakers and everything. But Phil is missing the very, very key point. You're not just gaming anymore, Phil. You are a content creator. Therefore, it's not about just what you like and what you think is awesome. It's not about you anymore. You're doing this not just as a hobby, as if that wasn't reason enough. You're doing this as a job. which means it's your job to provide the best product for your customers. And therefore, it doesn't amount to a hill of beans whether or not you think the proper way to do gaming is to be nice and relaxed to a sofa and everything with speakers and surround sound. If that doesn't produce the best product for your customers, then you gotta change. And it's clear as day. And I'm going to show footage of how clear as day it was that direct capture, as opposed to his camcorder method, it was not even a contest. His way of doing things, even back in like 2010, was dog shit by comparison to what other content creators were doing at the time. But he didn't. He fought this to the absolute bitter end. And it's stunning to watch at times. Just how selfish and just how immature he acts. And again, I'm going to pull up that clip again where he says his infamous phrase,
I'm a mature adult with a business degree.
And I wasn't the only one who was thinking to themselves, hey Phil, this is your job. It doesn't matter whether or not it's something you like. What matters is what's best for your audience and what's best for your content creation and your career at large. So your personal enjoyment has to take a back seat if it means that you'll get a big jump in quality and stay competitive on YouTube. The people over at the YouTube channel called Hellfire Comms, when they were still doing their podcast called the Hellfire Cast, also brought this up.
Phil started doing playthroughs, let's plays, etc., with a HD, a high definition camcorder. Now, this worked for him, like he said, but he would also sneer at people using direct capture and, say stuff like, oh, this isn't how you're meant to be playing a game. You're supposed to be sat in front of your television, with a drink and having a good time. First and foremost, this is your job. I really don't give a shit whether you're comfortable doing this or not. If you are, that's a plus and will most likely, reflect in the commentary as you're relaxed, you're focused, and you're able to do stuff in an efficient manner. But it's not a must. We're the audience, you're the content creator. Act like it.
Alright, now we're going to show you from Phil's own videos. From Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, we're going to show just the jaw-dropping difference in video quality and sound quality that you could expect when you go from the shitty camcorder method to a capture card / direct capture method. And we can show this because he played Metal Gear Solid 2 initially in 2012, and then he went back and played it again 6 years later, when he now had a capture card.
Great, it didn't do shit for me.
Okay, that's enough footage for that one. Now we're gonna go to the 2012 one.
Alright, let's take a look, let's get our bearings. I saved the game, so even if I fuck up right away, I should be okay.
Okay.
There's some items. A bandage. Oops, that was the wrong button? No, that was correct. Oh, here comes the guy.
So you can see, it's not even a contest. The video quality is just 100 times better. And again, this technology was available as far back as 2009. And so even if he postponed it until he got the HD collection in 2011, you can see the difference between this and this is night and day. It's not even a contest. And again, this is what people were able to do back in 2011, 2012, and again, as far back as 2009, if you want to be technical about it. And so again, from a business perspective, there's no logical reason why he didn't do this. I mean, the leap in quality for the consumer, for his viewers, who he's always claimed he cares about. He always claimed he likes his viewers, he cares about them, and he wants to produce a good quality product. He wants to produce quote-unquote quality content, and now he says quote-unquote meaningful content. But I mean, if he really cared about his viewers in any way, or if he actually cared at all about trying to make his business grow, expand, and thrive, he would have done this. He would have done this back in at least. He would have done this. He would have got a capture card or whatever back in that 2010, the latest. Because by 2011, everybody and their grandma was using capture cards. Hence the reason why you started seeing his channel decline in 2011. Okay, and this time for Ratchet and Clank, I actually decided to think it through and use the split screen feature for my browser. So now we're going to show a side-by-side comparison, and right here, so that way it's clear as day. And granted, the game on the right is Ratchet and Clank is the second game in the Ratchet and Clank series, but it used the exact same engine, the same graphics, so it's a perfectly fine apples to apples comparison. So that way we're just going to play them both at the same time, and you can see the difference. The difference is night and day. And it's going to and we'll just turn off the sound for now, just so you can see the visuals. Here you go. When I get back here, boom, there we go. So you can see the difference. Yeah, you can see it is because he's recording on a camera, it does look a little bit blurry, and you can see the graphics, the coloring and everything just looks like garbage compared to this, without a shadow of a doubt. And now we're going to show some of the sound. Okie dokie, now we're going to show sound from this game.
The game just started!
To see how the sound is so much clearer, so much... It's not as sharp, it's not as ear-piercing and everything.
Shut up.
It's so much better. But anyway, that pretty much hammers home the point. And those are just 2 games that he has replayed. He's also replayed Metal Gear Solid 3. And if I really wanted to, I could show some of his initial gameplay and stuff from like MGS4, which was like the first game that we actually have clear evidence of, where he actually did the actual transition from the camcorder to direct capture. And I believe it was on March 18th, 2013. I believe that was the first time we actually saw it. But anyway, you get the point. Yeah, the graphics, the sound quality, everything is 1,000 times better. So Phil's talking out of his ass when he tries to say that his stuff is better, more professional, and all that stuff with his camcorder stuff as opposed to having a capture card. And Phil knew this all along. It was clear as day. Hey, if you're enjoying the video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel.
Bottom line is, this is what I'm doing for now. This is how I've done it. This is how I will continue to do it for now. I'm sorry, but the way I do it is professional. It's actually difficult to do it the way I do it, with the adjustments and the things on the fly, and I do it to try to give you the best commentary and...
Professional? And it's like, again, you have seen the difference between Metal Gear Solid 2 and Ratchet and Clank on the original setup versus with a capture card with direct capture. Which one do you think looks best, and which one do you think has the better commentary, has the better image quality, has the better viewing experience if you're watching a YouTube video? I mean, it's not even a contest. Let's continue.
You know, the most videos per day, and it's worked. It's worked since I started on YouTube, and you know,
well, it hasn't worked so far, at least at this point, because from late 2011 onward, his channel went nowhere but down. And granted, after he did a direct capture, it does look like his channel went from declining to stagnating for a good maybe 1 or 2 years. But still, him saying it's working when it clearly wasn't. I mean, we have the numbers from his channel going all the way back to like 2009 and 2010. So the facts speak for themselves that his channel was declining at this point. And that this looked like it was a last-ditch effort to stem the bleeding.
a lot of people this month for Ask the King have started asking me about live streaming. They've been saying, listen, Phil, it's all the rage right now. Most of the major YouTubers who are doing gaming are doing live streams. No, not for everything, but they are live streaming certain things and events. Will you do it? I'm going to be honest with everyone. This is the first time I've talked about this like this. I'm considering adopting live streaming and or direct capture in the near future, and by no means am I saying it's going to be everything that I do. By no means am I saying that I'm completely changing the way I'm doing stuff. I'm saying that I may start fooling around with it soon. You're not supposed to...
And so true what AJ says there. As soon as Phil started doing live streaming, he could not get enough of it. He became borderline addicted to doing live streams, and it was incredible. And he still live streams several times, and he still live streams at least once a day to this day.
Oh, Phil, Don't you realize that there are headphones with surround sound? To which I say, what? Why would I want to experience headphones with surround sound? If I want surround sound, I want the sound to be around me. I don't want simulated surround sound in headphones. For me, I've had surround sound since, like, seriously, since 2005. I've owned my speakers and the receiver and my setup. It's like, I don't know, it's like, it's Greek to me. Why would people want to do that? You know what I mean?
And once again, it's not about you, Phil. It's about doing what's best for your customers. And if nothing else, just from a self-interest standpoint, from a money-making standpoint, because you're obviously a selfish bastard, which we all know. Just from a selfishness standpoint, you should have done this years ago, because from 2011 you could see that your channel was declining. So as soon as you saw that, you should have said, okay, I don't like capture cards. It's new technology. It really pisses me off to try to use new technology, but for the sake of the business, for the sake of trying to stem the bleeding of my channel declining, I should adopt this so that way I can stay competitive on YouTube. Because everybody does it, and if I look at the video experience, if I look at those videos, the image quality and the sound and their sound quality is way better than mine, I should do it so that way I can keep making money. So I can keep making as much money as possible, so that way I can keep myself into the manner to which I've become accustomed. Just from a selfish business owner standpoint, you should have done this.
If I can get the equipment together in the next few weeks, maybe I'll start experimenting with it with live streaming, maybe when John's here, or with some playthroughs, and see how it works out. And I'm not saying that, you know, this is something that I'm going to definitely do and adopt, and it's all I'm going to do, but I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, this year, 2013, have said, well, Phil's not doing direct feed. Literally every other YouTuber is, because they're sitting at their computer squinting and playing like this, which isn't what they should be doing if they're real gamers. But
and you see, this is it. He just admitted right there the real reason why he's looking to go into direct capture. It's not because, yeah, and first off, he got the timeline wrong. He got his timeline dead wrong here. This decline started in 2011. And I'll show a screenshot up here real quick right now just to hammer home the point that Phil's bullshitting. And that it's not because the decline started, it's because he feels like his back is against the wall right now. So we'll show the picture from Social Blade, which gets their information directly from YouTube, right here. Okay, and here's documented proof from the Social Blade numbers that was in Frederick Newson's video. Shout out to him. Because, yep, for his 2017 documentary on Dark Side Phil. But you can see right here, and these are the numbers from Social Blade. And you can see right here that in 2011 or so, his channel was cruising along just fine. But then you started seeing, and then you saw it skyrocket, and then in late 2011, and then you started seeing it going down. So right here, the decline started in, you could definitely say that Phil by any reasonable standard would have noticed the decline from late 2011 going into 2012. And then you started seeing go up and down, but you can see a very clear downward trend. And then by late 2012, you start seeing the trend becoming more of a permanent feature. And then even though it's not shown here, it does stagnate by the end of 2013 to around 5 million views a month. But yeah, this hammers home the point that Phil was bullshitting when he said that his decline really started in 2013, when it actually started in 2011, 2 years earlier. And yeah, and again, Phil's trying to do damage control by saying, I've noticed, as soon as I saw a decline, I started to change. But in reality, it took him 2 years of being dragged kicking and screaming to finally change. All right, so I forgot to add this part right in when I was just looking at this part. When I was looking at this part of the clip, it was about like 8.5 minutes in. It just clicked in my brain now when he was talking about how they saw that Phil's content was obviously inferior because he wasn't using a capture card, and so they moved on. And he said, well, unfortunately, people are now just expecting that they are expecting better quality out of me, and I'm not giving it to them, therefore they're moving on. He said, unfortunately, customers are having higher standards, and therefore it's unfortunate. God, that tells you everything you need to know. that tells you, that it's like, how dare the customer want better and more value for money or better use of their time? How dare they do that? Those entitled assholes. And you know what? This is the perfect place where I'm going to slap in a little bit of from the whole chicken sandwich fiasco in 2022, because it fits perfectly here. With his whole attitude of, well, unfortunately, my audience, my customers, they're demanding better, and I'm not giving it to them, so they're leaving. And that's really unfortunate. Okay, I was slightly wrong on this one. This was actually from September 2021, when he had the whole chicken sandwich fiasco from Burger King. But I mean, you could listen here, and just a quick background. He got a slightly messy chicken sandwich. They only had like 1 or 2 napkins, and apparently they put a little too much sauce on it, which for most people is like, okay, not a big deal. Worst case scenario, I just go to a gas station, get some napkins, and I'll be fine. But Phil just went off on a tirade, and when his own people were saying, dude, why are you making such a big deal about this? It's like it's fast food. I mean, it's obviously not gonna be top quality gourmet. It's gonna be a little messy, or like, hey, sometimes mistakes happen, and he just flips his shit about this, and his response is classic, considering his response to when people were leaving his live streams and walking away from his channel because he refused to improve the quality of his content with a capture card. I mean, the context of this is just perfect.
Oh, it's disgusting.
See, some people, oh, what's the problem? This is what fast food is. Are you out of your mind? Seriously, are you out of your fucking mind? You should not be accepting this. Really. You should not be accepting this as acceptable product. These people are crazy. And then other people are like, oh, that's disgusting.
Wow.
And he goes on to give like this almost like Martin Luther King type of speech of like, if you accept mediocrity, then that's what you're gonna get, and you shouldn't do that. That's why fast food is shit, because people just accept mediocrity. And he goes on this long speech about that, but you get the point. It's like when Phil's the consumer, he wants top quality stuff, but when Phil's the one who has to provide for the customers, he thinks, oh, it's unfortunate that people want me to actually provide better products. I mean, the hypocrisy with this guy is legendary. And as you could guess, he still acts like this hypocritical asshole to this day. Okay, now that we've seen that, now you can see that, but very clearly, getting back on point, Phil is doing this because he's losing money. And he's afraid he'll keep losing money if he doesn't do this. Because now he feels he has no other choice but to put in a tiny speck of effort into his content creation. And I know I've said it a million times in this video and other videos, but that's like a key element of his problem. Trying to do the bare minimum. Putting in the bare minimum effort, the bare minimum time and money investment into his business. And again, at a time when YouTube was becoming incredibly competitive. Even in 2013, the competition was getting pretty intense. In all aspects of the community. Not just in terms of Let's Plays and playthroughs, which was Darkside Phil's area of expertise, but in terms of tech reviews, which was more of the Review Tech USA area, commentary over gameplay and stuff, which was more the Wings of Redemption, whichever aspect, when it comes to politics, when it comes to lifestyle, when it comes to health, all aspects of content creation were facing, it was essentially a gold rush, to where everybody and their grandma was coming in because they saw not only was this a lot of fun, but if you played your cards right, you could actually make some money off this. And so everybody was coming in, and so now the competition went up, which means that if you want to keep doing this as a job, you need to step up your game. And that is the area where Phil fails the hardest. Because he hates competition. He hates it because that means he actually has to use his brain and actually use a tiny bit of willpower to get to stay competitive.
That's how they're doing it, and they're all doing direct feed, and now everyone's saying we like direct feed, and it's like the new fad. If you don't do direct feed, you're not the in crowd. You're not, you know what I mean? You're a relic. So
now he was 100% right about that at this time, Phil was probably like one of the last people on Earth, and I mean that sincerely. Again, this was at the start of 2013. I mean, you can go all the way back. People were doing it back in 2009, 2010. They were using capture cards, and they were showing direct capture style footage back in like 2009. And even though his reputation aged like sour milk, one of the first people who did it in 2009 was, of all fucking people, it was fucking Chris Chan. He was one of the first people doing it, alongside Wings of Redemption back in 2009. Okay, and here's one classic example of a big content creator who got in early into using direct capture style hardware. And this was Wings of Redemption. We're getting it from the Jin and King documentary, the first part. And we'll see that Wings started doing direct capture stuff back in 2009.
Games at the time, Call of Duty World at War. Both Jordy and Taylor had purchased a Dazzle capture card, but only Taylor would upload videos on his channel with the footage obtained by it. Jordy would instead go an alternate route and spend $200 for a hot-paged HD PVR that would allow him to record in high definition. And after seeing the attention Taylor had gotten and reading his viewers' comments, he then decided to begin uploading videos of his own. And on October 1st, 2009, Jordy's first video would be uploaded under his channel name, Wings of Redemption. The name is inspired by the...
See, back in October 1st, 2009. That's how far behind Darkside Phil was. Yeah, he was like over 4 years behind the times. I mean, it's astounding. And again, Wings of Redemption is just one example of people who are already making decent quality content with good quality sound and commentary. Again, back in 2009, people were doing this. Phil didn't do it, and Phil didn't start until like March of 2013, like 4 years later. Holy shit! And again, the technology was there. And if Phil really wanted to, all he had to do was ask around to say, hey, I've heard a lot about this direct capture stuff. Do you guys know anything about it? Because from what I've heard, it's way better than what I'm doing now. So can you help me out with that? Can you at least help me understand the technology so that way I'll be better prepared if I want to adopt this in the future? He could have done that at any time. And even in 2013, when his reputation was starting to sour, he still had a massive fan base that would have gladly helped him out. And gladly said, okay, Phil, yeah, absolutely, we'll help you out with this. And we think it would be awesome for you to do this. And I'm sure his fans would have been really excited to see Phil being genuinely open-minded. Because he is legendary for not being open-minded. So, yeah, at any time, he could have asked for help. Especially if he was just considering it. Just getting advice and everything. And again, he should have done this like 3 years earlier. He was like the last person. He was the last person to jump on the bandwagon.
Maybe it's time to adapt. I don't know. I have to see what I can come up with.
And again, at this point, this was just 24 hours after he was shitting all over it, strawmanning and saying, oh, you're just sitting at your computer chair, hunched over a tiny monitor. Just 24 hours later, look what he does. It's amazing. This is almost like the classic meme of rich today, rich tomorrow, except that's Phil today, Phil tomorrow. It's epic.
Okay, here we go. So we are not only streaming this, we are also doing direct capture for YouTube. So this is going to be a great opportunity for us to stream and then test the quality of the video on YouTube later.
I feel like I'm in the future, Phil. Or fly cars will be coming
Or
by
5 years ago when everyone started doing direct feed and I didn't, you know.
See, even Phil admits that people were already doing this like 4 or 5 years ago. See, Phil knows. Phil knows that he was like 5 years behind the times, and yet he still didn't do it. Phil would not have gotten nearly as much shit for it if he just said, look, I just don't want to do it. I like the way I'm doing it now, maybe in the future, but right now I'm not interested. And I think 99% of people who are giving him shit for this and were giving him shit wouldn't really care. They'd be like, okay, we think you're missing an opportunity, but alright, okay, it's your YouTube channel, you can run it how you want. Yes, March 14th, 2013. There we go.
Everybody, DSP here, and I am going to show you my new setup that I've now been using for about, I want to say as of tomorrow, it's been 2 weeks of direct capture / streaming capability. Okay, now my equipment to do the audio and capture. Okay, we've got, first of all, my new headset. It is the Turtle Beach Ear Force 7. Why would I want to experience headphones with surround sound? If I want surround sound, I want the sound to be around me. I don't want simulated surround sound in headphones. But it does.
Oh, that's classic Phil. He will flip-flop within like a month, and he won't even acknowledge it. Look at this. In order to show off the superiority of a capture card, he's literally showing the direct capture, but he's recording he's literally just recording it with his old fucking camera. This, you can't make this up with Phil. And again, I know this was like 12 years ago, but it's still but anyway, with like a common sense would know not to do this. Just show the direct capture. Just show the actual direct capture from your computer. Don't point your camera at the TV that's doing direct capture to show it. Oh.
You know, the direct capture ends up looking a hell of a lot better than what I was doing. Of course, I'm recording it with a camera right now, so you can't tell that it's any better. But
so then why fucking show this? Why show this if we can't tell the difference? You fucking dumbass. Jesus. This gives you a good background on what led up to Phil finally being dragged kicking and screaming to do what everybody else was doing 5 fucking years ago. Hey, if you're enjoying the video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Alright, and as luck would have it, the capture card that gave Phil so much trouble in 2013 was actually my very first capture card when I started dicking around with direct capture and things like that back in like 2017 or so. And I still have the box and all the instructions and everything. So I can set up for you guys and I can show you what to do and also what pitfalls to avoid. And also we can tie it into some of the pitfalls that most likely Phil ran into, which gave him so much trouble. So get ready. Yeah, this one's going to be pretty damn good. And here, we're just going to show the instructions for the PS3, because that's the one that Phil failed miserably at setting up. Step 1. Connect your PS3 to Elgato Game Capture HD using the supplied PS3 cable. And that was good until later, that's called a D-terminal cable. Please ensure that PS3 is set to component/D-terminal and video output settings. Step 2. Connect your TV to the HDMI out port of Elgato Game Capture HD using the supplied HDMI cable. Step 3. Connect your Elgato Game Capture HD to your Mac or PC using the supplied USB cable. And step 4. Visit, the website, download the latest game capture software, etc. Once downloaded, launch the software. Step 5. Game on. Pretty straightforward. Okay, and if you follow all the instructions correctly to set it up for the PS3, then it should look more or less like this. On the left hand side you have your PS3 cable with the D-terminal head that goes into the D-terminal port for the PS3. Then on the other end you have a circular plug that goes into an outlet that's called A/V in. And then on the other side of the capture card you have your HDMI out. And don't worry about this, I just had a super long HDMI cable that's way longer than the one I originally had, but never mind. You get the point. And then just below that, you have a USB port, but it's for the mini USB side, which looks like the little trapezoid. That was also the classic port for plugging in your PS3. And then that leads to the regular USB that plugs into your computer. So that's how it should look if you're setting it up as per the instructions to do direct capture with the PS3. Okay, and here is the back of the PS3. And we'll go through the ports from left to right. And on the left, you have your Ethernet port, so if you want to use a direct internet line instead of using Wi-Fi. And this one is one we all know and love, HDMI. It's been around for quite a long time, even in 2013. And we'll quickly skip over this one, and we'll just quickly get this one out of the way. That's power supply, no big deal. Now this one is the one that's very, very important. This is for a D-terminal connection. And this was extremely relevant because at this time, Sony, being a Japanese-based company, put this port in because a lot of the TV owners in Japan at the time were still using a D-terminal connection because HDMI had not completely taken Japan by storm yet. And this is very, very important to understanding the different ways in which you could set up your capture card, the Elgato capture card back in 2013, given the technology at the time. Because a lot of devices like splitters and other workarounds for the copy protection built into HDMI were not widely available. And we'll also link this later on in the video to why Phil had issues with his TV flickering when he set it up, because it's directly connected to the difference between a D-terminal connection and an HDMI connection when it comes to using a capture card. With that, let's move on. Alright, and one little caveat I'm just going to throw in right away is that I cannot set it up identically to the way Darkside Phil set it up back in 2013, because at the time he was using, I believe, OBS. I'm not sure if he was using Streamlabs or whatever, but I'm pretty sure he was using OBS to run his live streams. And because OBS has become so much more advanced, then because the capture card is so old, OBS does not recognize it as a video capture device. So you do have to do a little bit of a workaround in order to get the capture card to run, but you can still use the capture card to capture the video and audio from a PS3 or PS4 or any other device. It just requires a more roundabout way of doing it, as I'll explain step by step. Alright, and now that we have it all hooked up, there's two very important things you gotta do to make sure it runs properly when you're hooking up with a D-terminal connection, like we were back in like 2013 or thereabouts. Number one is in display settings. Very, very important. Is that you've got to make sure that you set it from HDMI over to the component D-terminal connection. That's very, 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 very important. Otherwise, you won't get a signal at all. And then the second part, we'll have to go down to sound settings, and you have to set that one off. You have to change that one also from HDMI over to the bottom one, which is for the audio output connector, etc., etc. Because obviously we're not using HDMI connection, so we can't use HDMI for sound either. That's very, very important. Otherwise you'll get video stuff on your screen, but you won't get any sound. And also, one final thing that's very, very important: if you can use this old-fashioned way to like do capture, it's absolutely crucial you download the drivers for it. And crazy enough, the Elgato website, even to this day, with this ancient capture card, they abandoned back in 2018 because it's so ancient. They still have the drivers on their website, along with a lot of the old Q&A pages that are up. So that's very, very essential, because if you don't do that, then the capture software won't run at all. Okay, and here was the last version of the Elgato capture software, and what the interface looked like when you were hooking up your capture card, the Elgato Game Capture HD capture card. And one nice feature about this is that once you stop moving your mouse or move it over to a different screen if you're using dual monitor, then the software would very quickly zoom into full screen mode. And that's extremely useful for this roundabout way that we're going to be able to capture stuff in OBS. Okay, and here's what it looks like when you're capturing the window in OBS. The one I have highlighted is called Window Capture, and you see it's highlighted to Game Capture HD because that's the window of the software that's open. And And that's the roundabout way you can do it, because the capture card is so old, you can't use the video capture device, which is normally how you use capture cards in the modern era. But having the capture software open, then using the window capture, and with the fact that it automatically goes into full screen mode if you don't move the mouse, that's the quick and dirty method to using an ancient capture card and ancient capture card software with a modern OBS. And granted, it's not perfect, but it hammers home the point that you can get this done. Like, if you really, really want to use ancient software with with ancient technology with modern software, you can do it if you really, really want to. With that being said, let's move on. And now, with that being said, we're going to try to kill two birds with one stone here. Because while I'm not just going to use this kind of content for tech fails, I'm also going to use it to capture some footage for my fails video about Phil just failing disastrously at Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, the remastered. And I figured since I had the original games, might as well throw some of that footage in here as well. So yeah, I'm gonna use the same content for two videos. And what's also important is that for the original games, they were much more difficult. They were a royal pain in the ass to deal with. And one big issue, especially using the D-terminal setup, is that you will see some sparks and other things going on in the video. You'll see a little bit of like flickering on like the bottom left corner of the screen, and you guys will probably not notice it, but I definitely do, is that there is some audio desync. That's just because the capture card is so old and it's so outdated, whereas that issue was never around when this capture card was still being supported by Elgato. But it's just to hammer home the point that you can get things done properly, and it's not a big deal. And let's go into career mode. Yeah, this was a career I just banged out real quick. And we're just gonna go into the first level. We'll just get a quick little bit of footage over here. Okay, and as you can see here, the 6th score, the top one is 75,000, which is actually higher than the 60,000 that we see in the remake. So not only are the controls a little trickier to deal with, but also the threshold for a lot of high scores was much higher. So let's try to bang out some high scores here. Oh, alright. And you'll see, even if you're rusty or if you're really new at this, you can still get some decent scoring. There's 8,000 right there. There you go. Got 18,000 in one combo. Again, considering them a bit rusty, no, not too terrible way to start. Okay, not terrible for my first crack at it. 58,000 with many, many mistakes. Alright, and I know I already recorded this for episode 2 of the Tragic Comedy series, but the audio was the audio wasn't so good because I had to record late at night when it's quiet time at my apartment, so now I can do a much better job. and so I figure it's worthy of doing a retake of the whole capture card fiasco that Evil AJ kept screenshots of from the stream chat. So here we go. The first one was, and because he was struggling to get the Elgato capture card running, and so he said, "It's doing this because the PC was always a piece of shit. Chris and Tail built me a lemon." Alright, we're going to start by debunking the whole idea that we see in the first slide of him saying the Elgato capture card is not working because the Furtado PC is a piece of shit and it's a lemon and yada 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 yada. And I'm going to first bring up what you're seeing on your screen here is a captured from the screen of my ancient Bronze Age laptop that I first got in 2011, just like the Phil's Furtado PC that I mentioned in episode 2 of my Dreaded Comedy series. And I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison between my laptop and his PC in terms of specs. As you can see here, I brought up the system information. And yes, people can roast me all they want for still being on Windows 7, but number one, it fits with the video because it was the same hardware and software that was available back in 2011. So it fits in that perspective. And also, I will eventually upgrade it to Windows 10 and everything. I got the media creation tool and everything. I'm just waiting to do live streams of all my old games in here that don't transfer well, but whatever. Anyway, get back to the topic at hand. If you see where my mouse is hovering over here, you see the processor is an Intel Core i5, and it runs around 2.3 gigahertz, and it's a 2-core 4-thread processor. And I can see in Device Manager, you can see that over here versus processors, you see 4 of them. That tells you there's 4 threads for the dual-core processor. Now compare this to Darkside Phil's Furtado PC, which had an Intel Core i7, which was a 4-core 8-thread processor. So it's already at least twice as powerful as mine. And because it's a desktop processor, it's built more for performance, whereas laptop processors are built for energy efficiency. So his CPU already blows mine out of the water in terms of performance. And then we're going to go over here. I'm going to go back over here. And you see where my mouse is. It says installed RAM. It says 4 gigabytes of RAM. That's compared to Darkside Phil's 8 gigabytes of RAM that he had in the Furtado PC. And I already covered it in the episode 2, to where even though it was supposed to have 8 gigs of RAM, he could have easily solved the problem. And worse, it would have cost him $50 to have 16 gigs of RAM. But even with the 8 gigs of RAM, his computer was running just fine. And then when it comes to the graphics card, he had the GTX 460. Now compare that to my, over here you see it says Intel HD Graphics 3000. That was my integrated graphics, and compared to a graphics card, these integrated graphics were complete and utter dog shit by comparison. And I was able to get the capture card to run just fine on my laptop. So, despite my laptop being just like a million times worse than anything you say about the Furtado PC. So just want to get that out of the way. So Phil's talking out of his ass when he said, "Oh my god, the PC's a piece of shit. It's a lemon. That's why the Elgato capture card's not working." No. Because I literally ran it just fine off a laptop. That was that I got the same year you got your desktop, and it's 100 times worse. So yeah. So the PC is not the problem, never was the problem. And then he continues, "Chris, do you realize you told me this would be easy, right? Guess what? It's not. Like I fucking told you." Then somebody's trying to give him some help. "Phil, did you try this for the microphone setting and XSplit?" And he gives him a link to like give him some help. And then of course Phil goes on raging, "But you don't listen to me." Yeah. And Chris goes on, "Well, it is easy. PS3 is just ass." Winky face. So obviously Chris is not, at this point really pissed off. It's like, and Phil raging and stuff, I mean, that's the kind of thing that everybody's been used to at this point. Even some of his dire fans are like, okay, yeah, he's just popping off like usual. And then Darkside Phil goes on and say, because he said, "Oh, it's easy." Phil says, "No, it's obviously fucking not. John and I had to move a bunch of shit today. We spent hundreds of dollars. I'm up at almost 7 a.m. And Chris was basically saying, well, it is easy, the PS3 is just ass and it gives everyone problems. Which I can attest to, it's not a walk in the park. There are some things you gotta remember, as we'll get into. It's like one of the most important things, you gotta install the drivers. Because if you don't do that, oh yeah, your device won't work. Because drivers are they're the linchpin to having software run. Because drivers are they're the key to getting your software and your hardware to communicate effectively with each other. So that way, when the software says, "Hey, do this," your device will work properly and will do exactly as it's told. And I'm sure there were other pitfalls, such as not switching the video setup, not switching the audio setup. I'm sure those were also issues. And then Phil continues going on, "You owe me an apology and I'm serious. I want to adopt this new crap, but you try to make it sound like I'm lazy." And then Chris says, yeah, and he was probably responding to Chris, to Phil accusing him of saying he's lazy. And he says, "I don't. I just have experience with live streaming." And Phil responds, "But just admit it's not fucking easy. You're going to admit it right now before I go to fucking sleep." And Chris laughs his ass off. Because this meltdown is just so hilarious. It's like, dude, you're setting up a capture card. You're not building a nuclear warhead. We're not trying to disable a bomb before it goes off and blows up half of Manhattan. Like, dude, it's not that big a deal. Oh man. And then Chris goes on, "It's not easy if you don't have experience. It's easy if you do." Which I can attest to this. Because there are those obvious pitfalls. Making sure that your display settings, your sound settings are done correctly in the PS3 menu. Making sure you install the latest drivers you could find to make sure that otherwise it won't run. And obviously making sure that you're in the correct HDMI port when you try to when you try to have a display on your computer and your TV and everything, making sure that's all good. But Phil is not satisfied with this. Oh yeah, and it's also worth noticing this little cute little joke. "It's not easy being a prostitute in New York. I said it." And then another guy says, "It'll be easy once you have experience." Smiley face. And it's like, yeah, exactly. It's just like any new piece of technology. It's just like driving a car. Sure, it seems difficult and intimidating at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's a piece of cake. And he goes on to say, "Okay, so you just admitted it's not easy for someone who doesn't know about it." Still raging and seething. And he said, "Which is exactly what I've been fucking saying. I just spent over 2 hours with you guys, and the PS3 won't work for streaming." Well, yeah, most likely because you... and again... And I think this is a good place to go on a little field trip. I'm just going to take some time to look up some screenshots of stuff that you can easily look up. Because again, everything from 2013 even to the modern day, you can actually look it up on the Elgato website. Their frequently asked questions segment is still there. Hell, you can even look it up in a Google search and it'll most likely guide you to the Elgato website for whatever problem you're having. Whether it's, there's no signal, there's no sound, your TV's flickering, whatever it is, you can look it up. So I'm going to show some screenshots of that right now, just to show you just how easy it is to find this information. Let's see right here. Here's one example. I just typed in Elgato Capture HD, no signal. And let me see, this should be for the original one. Yep. And so see right here. Here's a frequently asked question in order to just show how easy it is to find stuff. And so it gives you some troubleshooting tips. Ensure the source is turned on. Ensure that it's plugged into the proper port and everything. Make sure HDCP is disabled. Make sure you replug things. Make sure that all of your stuff is at the correct speeds. Make sure it's at a supported resolution. Check the cable length. You can always try to reset the capture device and see if that works. Cold boot the PC to complete PCI Express capture card, but yeah. Phil doesn't need to worry about that because Phil didn't need to worry about that back then because he was not using one that was built into the computer. It was an external capture card. And you can always try replugging things. I mean, there's so many tips. And again, I know this one's not strictly for the original game Capture HD, but you can always check it out. And also at the bottom here, it just shows you recent, also other related things. You know, your Elgato hardware drivers. And you can just look it up right here and boom, there you go. You can get the latest drivers. Even to this day, you can get them for the Elgato Capture HD. For the hardware as well as the software drivers, which is pretty cool. And we can just look it up again. Like let's just say you ran into the problem I ran into. Because I was being a dunderhead and I didn't realize. Well, I didn't realize what was going on. No sound. And here you go. Right here. No sound. And see, and you have a cool little table of contents here that will explain everything. Is like just making sure that everything, and it'll tell you everything you need to know. And everything is all very straightforward. Double check this, double check that. And as I already mentioned before I showed, and as I already mentioned when I was showing off the sound settings and everything, if you're gonna set up for D terminal, then you gotta change the settings away from HDMI, because obviously if you're using the D terminal cable, you're obviously not using HDMI, so you can't get sound from HDMI either. That's very, very important. And remember where it said where was it? Yeah, make sure HDCP is disabled, and this is very, very important. We'll get to that later. But anyway, I'm just right here. Just do a simple Google search. It'll take you to Elgato.com. Especially back then in 2013, because the Elgato Game Capture HD was the only capture card Elgato ever sold at that point. So it would have been child's play to look up all these issues and find it out yourself. But Phil being Phil, he doesn't like looking things up. He would rather cry and bitch to his stream chat and beg them for help. Oh man. Anyway, let's continue. And Phil continues going on. I blame people who claim streaming is easy, and that I'm lazy for not doing it, and order a capture. Which I already laughed at this one in episode 2, but it is a very weird thing to do, to be overly precise. To say I blame people for saying streaming is easy, and order a capture. Like, why do you have to add this in and or? It's like, the people who've been watching you for the past couple hours already know what's going on. They know that you're doing capture cards and streaming. It's like, that annoying precision. That does make me wonder whether or not he's on the spectrum. Genuinely. Oh, wait, hold on. This one, he's responding to someone named Chelsea. When was the last time Chelsea was there? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, because Phil's going to respond to this comment by Chelsea. But yeah, PS3 is, ass or shit or whatever. And then he responds to Chelsea saying, Chris built my PC. I pulled a 12 gigs of RAM in there, which I already addressed. It was actually 16. And only 8 gigs worked. He dropped my PC and the door is cracked. And I've already explained that one in the video. I already debunked that claim with Phil's own words. And he said, do you think I'd let him remote control it now? Because I'm guessing there's some kind of remote access you can do. But yeah, the rage continues. And then Chris defends himself by saying, I didn't drop it, UPS dropped it. And then this guy over here, he makes a joke about it. UPS threw it, you dropped it. As if UPS just opened the door and said, hey, here Phil, catch. And then Phil didn't catch it in time. Oh, this is good. I know I've already reacted to this stuff, but it makes me smile every time. Oh boy. And then one person here, he tries to give a suggestion. The occasional PS3 game without a stream wouldn't hurt. It's like saying, hey, dude, it's not the end of the world. And then one person comes in and says, Elgato Game Capture HD is good. And then Phil says, notice how Chris didn't apologize to me before he left, by the way. And Chris says, I'm still here. I'm finding tutorials on how to fix this. Again, I can't say this enough. Phil, you're the live streamer. You're the content creator. It should be your job. It should be your job to look shit up. Chris, granted, it's nice of him that he was trying to help you like this and looking things up. But, I mean, seriously? Like, it shouldn't be his job to help you fix your problem. Oh, man. And then Phil says, I wanted to go to direct feed and to MGS4 tomorrow. Now I might drop the entire thing. Nobody watches the playthrough anyway. Oh, man. Oh, jeez. Yeah. And then Chris says, I'm purposely going out tomorrow buy this HDP VR2 gaming edition because I have the old one. He's referring to the HDP VR1, which as I already showed when Phil was trying to fight against direct capture, the HDP VR1 was actually the one that Wings of Redemption got in 2009 in order to start doing his direct capture and stuff like that type of content. Again, like roughly 4 years before this whole train wreck happened. And then Phil goes on to say, I'm trying to tweak the stream. Now it's locking up. Oh, man. And that could happen for a million different reasons. But I'm betting it's most likely because he tried to plug in with just regular HDMI. I would bet you any money. That's what was going on. And that's why it was locking up. That's why the signal wasn't really going anywhere. Because that can happen sometimes. If the signal cuts off or whatever, then on the preview, as well as on the live stream, it'll just show the still image of the last bit of signal that it was able to get. So if it was showing Phil, like, crawling on the ground or whatever, and then it cuts out, then it would just show Phil's character lying on the ground, because that was the last piece of video that was able to be captured by the capture card or by OBS, because then the signal got cut out. That can happen sometimes. And then Chris goes on, he's still trying to help, and saying, I'm going to record a tutorial for you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you need to walk him through step by step. You need to say, okay, Phil, first step is you put on your left shoe, and then you tie your shoelaces together into a nice little knot. Then you put your right shoe on and tie the shoelaces nice little knot. And then you stand up, and then you turn towards the door because you want to leave. And then you go one step at a time, left foot, right foot. Yeah, you have to do this with him. You have to treat him like he's a 4-year-old. Otherwise, he's gonna fuck it up. It's astounding. Oh boy. And then Phil, he's had enough. He's like, Chris, don't bother, seriously. Got 3 more captured devices in the mail. Which is another thing, is just amazing. Which, that'll be another bit of tech fails down the road, is to where Phil will literally buy something without even doing any research, without looking into anything. He'll just buy it. He'll just basically shoot first and ask questions later. He'll just buy a device and then test it out. It's like, because Phil's philosophy is you have to buy something and then test it out yourself before you can have any clue about as to whether or not it's going to work. Which, I mean, it's just so dumb. It's such a caveman way of thinking. Of like, I have to buy it first before I know before I'm going to have any clue as to whether or not it's going to work. It's astounding to me. And he would literally go on to try to do this when he was pulling his 2017 Patreon scam. One of the lesser known ones, but it was one of the more egregious, one of the more nakedly obvious scams he tried to pull. I wonder, can I grab a screenshot of that real quick? Let me see. Okay, here we are, and this was from 2017, when it was his initial Patreon scam. Well, one of the many versions of it that he tried to run over this period, over this week. And you see Phil, once again, with his stupid idea of, I need to buy something before I even know whether or not it has a chance of working. And it's glorious. And you see the SOK, they tore the pieces over this because it's just so stupid what he says here.
Note, I believe my current capture setup would work with the PS4 Pro, at least at 1080p, but there is no way to tell until I own one. If not, we'll have to explore a possible workaround later.
Which means more money.
What a waste of fucking money. He can't even capture 4K.
But just that bottom thing too, of like, he's like, oh, by the way, this may not work.
A Google
search.
search.
Even if you get this fucking...
A Google search. A Google search. A Google search. A Google search. You can fucking Google search PS Pro and the name of your capture card to see if it fucking captures in 4K. What is this guy talking about? I need to buy the equipment with your money first before I figure out if it works.
It's too much work. It's too much fucking work. How dare you ask him to do that?
What the fuck, man? This guy needs to fucking buy all the shit first, and before he figures out if it works, like, you can fucking... I'm sure your capture card company has a phone number. You could probably call and ask them, like, if it does 4K. This doesn't need to happen. So why did you... That's the disclaimer for the stupid people that are gonna give him the money, and then they're gonna be like, well, what the fuck, man? Well, I put it in the fucking description so you guys can go fuck yourselves. This is ridiculous.
You'd think for 2025 he'd like conduct some research first. Like what the?
A Google search. It's not even research, Tyler. It's a Google search.
You imagine if he gets that PS4 Pro and he's like, well, it doesn't work for my streaming. We're just gonna have to go ahead and use the regular PS4 since I know that works. Oh, I'll just use the PS4 Pro for personal. Don't worry, it's gonna go to good use.
I'll give it to Leanna for Christmas.
I think you can see why I had to show this. I couldn't resist because again, this is like what 4 years after this capture card fiasco that we're currently looking into, and man, holy shit! And again, it's like yeah, you can think Fred is the scum of the earth given what we know now about what was going on behind the scenes, but Fred was 100% right here. A simple Google search, which I literally showed you when it comes to troubleshooting problems with your capture card. Just like one Google search. Could find it. You could find it in like 2 minutes. And again, it was just as easy in 2017 as it was in 2013, or like hell, even like in 2006 when we were all doing homework assignments for school for like history class or whatever the fuck. It was literally that easy. So this whole idea of, oh, I need to buy it in order to know whether or not it's going to work is the word dumbassery doesn't even begin to describe this. It's unfucking real, and he still has his philosophy to this day. And I can go. I'll go into that into a future video when I talk about when he got the mini PC, and he has the exact same philosophy. He makes the exact same fucking argument. And we'll get into there because another lolcow review tech USA. He got a rare victory over Phil by just tearing him to shreds over this exact same obvious argument of like, hey Phil, why don't you just take 2 minutes to look it up? Look up what the hardware is and see and that way you know whether or not it'll be compatible or whatever. It's amazing. Like as dumb as Review Tech USA can be at times, it's like Phil makes him look like a genius by comparison. That's how bad Phil is. It's astounding. Anyway, let's get back to this. Yeah, I'm gonna buy 3 more devices, not do any research, and just hope it works. God fucking damn it. Hey, if you're enjoying the video, remember to like and subscribe to the channel. And then he goes on, just don't criticize me anymore, okay? And Chris is at the winky face, like, okay, sure, whatever you say, pal. I'll figure this out before you do. And spoiler alert, he did not find out. And this guy also tried to give some advice here, but that's neither here nor there. And then he goes on to say, I just don't need your shit. You don't know what you're talking about. And you know he was raging at this. And then he goes on to say, yup, the game blinks like crazy on my TV. This is shit. Oh god, it doesn't work either. LOL, people are full of shit. Now this one we're gonna go back to one of the Q&A pages we saw. Because again, and we're gonna tie this back into how my theory is that he tried to plug it up with HDMI connection, just HDMI in, HDMI out, and then plug it into his TV, plug it into his computer, and he thought, boom, there you go. We'll just plug in all HDMI, we're good to go. And this is where it's going to circle back to my theory as to what was going wrong with it. Well, one of the many mistakes he made. Remember this. HDCP has to be disabled. And why? Because it says HDCP will block the capture and recording of a source. Learn more about HDCP and how to disable it. And then it goes into that stuff, which yeah, you don't need to worry about TV flickering. But anyway, you can imagine what flickering looks like. Where it'll go from like this, so it would more or less kind of look like this. So it would look like this, boom, off, then on, off, and it would basically do that it would basically just do that nonstop. That's essentially what happens, and that's because of HDCP, which I've already mentioned. And that's why it's so important if you don't have a splitter or some other device to make absolutely sure that you're using the D terminal connection, which I already mentioned earlier on in this video, because otherwise you will get blinking because the HDCP is blocking the signal. I'm going to show it one more time. It literally says, step 1 for the PS3, set your display settings to D terminal connection, exactly for this reason, to avoid the HDCP problem. Whereas with the D terminal cable, because it's not technically HDMI, it doesn't have that HDCP that'll block the signal. It'll just be able to go straight through. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Because then this tells me that Phil did not read the instructions at all. He just saw, okay, it has an HDMI in, HDMI out. Okay, I'll just plug everything in, and away we go. And now he goes on to say, now I'm trying to get the PS3 to work, and it doesn't. This is a joke. Oh, it's so easy. That's what everybody told me. And then also, Nicholas, he gives us an update on the time. He says 9 a.m. here. So yeah, just to refresh your memory, when he said it, when we heard that was 7 a.m., he said he already spent 2 hours on this. And now it's 9 a.m. So that means he spent a total of 4 hours trying to get things to work. And also, Jealousy also gives a decent bit of troubleshooting advice. It's always worth looking into. Or she says, hey, start changing some settings in the HD software. See if it fixes your screen. Which, hey, who knows? Hey, that's always worth looking into. Just double check and make sure that your settings are done properly in all your devices. It's always worth looking into, for sure. And him saying, oh, it's so easy. Everybody told me. It's like, come on, seriously. It's like, now granted, your first time doing it, you are going to make a lot of mistakes. It's because the instructions do not tell you to check to make sure you have the latest drivers. So it'll take a while to do that. So it'll take a while to look into that, as well as making sure that you change. While the instructions do say to change your video settings, it forgets to tell you to change your sound settings as well. Because you're not using HDMI, so you have to change the sound settings from HDMI to the alternate way to output sound. But at most, it should take you at most like an hour and a half. If it's your first time, or if it's been like 10 years since you've hooked up a capture card the old-fashioned way. But Phil should have had no problems with this. He should have had absolutely no problems whatsoever with this. And again, 4 hours with a stream chat trying their best to help him. And as I already mentioned 500 times, he could have looked it up at any time. He could have looked up troubleshooting tips off Elgato's own website, and they could have given him 100 ways to try to fix his setup. So he has no one to blame for himself for this. I mean, it's unreal. Anyway, with that being said, let's continue. Alright, now after that whole fiasco, what is Phil's #1 complaint? Is it that he struggles to get the capture card running or whatever, or that he just doesn't want to, or that it's been a pain in the ass? Nope. What is his biggest complaint? Well, to no one's surprise, it has to do with his own personal enjoyment, rather than about the quality of the content for his audience.
I really don't want to wear headphones, but there's just no solution. There's no solution besides headphones for surround sound. It sucks. Alright, I'm sorry, surround sound for direct capture. This is what I've been telling everybody. You can't do it. You cannot do direct capture without headphones. Oh no, it's easy. Just do this. No, it doesn't fucking work. Yeah, you know what would be much better than me doing all this work and all this research trying to figure out how to do direct capture? How about everyone who does direct capture who called me lazy and called me, oh, it's so easy to do. How about they just shut the fuck up and they admit that they sit at their computer at a small monitor with a fucking computer chair with headphones.
Here we fucking go again with a straw man. And honestly, the truth is, I don't want to wear headphones. Who the fuck cares? Who fucking cares? Oh my god, you have to wear headphones. Oh my god, it's the end of the world. And again, he's going back to the whole, I don't want to do this because it doesn't maximize my personal experience with gaming. But dude, it's like, I know I'm going to beat a dead horse on this one, but it's like, you literally, you can just see the difference. It's night and day. And again, that's what it's all about. You're a businessman. You're running a business. So your personal enjoyment doesn't mean jack shit. Now, sure, within reason. It's like if your business or your job is causing you like physical pain, or if it's causing you to have really, really bad psychological symptoms, then that's a different story. But we're talking about wearing headphones. That's it. That's literally all we're talking about. And again, whether or not there is a way to do it without headphones, it's like, who gives a fuck? This is like the most first world problems complaint I've ever heard. And he just keeps going and going and going like a spoiled brat who doesn't want to eat his vegetables. It's unreal.
Phones on with a little fucking microphone and they play like that. Why don't they just admit it? Instead of calling me the lazy guy. Phil, he makes fun of us, but that's because he doesn't understand. No, I understand. You do it probably because you're in a place where you don't live by yourself and you can't have a big screen TV and you can't have surround sound. I understand that, okay? Why the fuck do you think I started with a camera to begin with? But that's not how games are meant to be experienced. You're supposed to be experiencing it like you're in a movie theater. That's why they're hiring orchestras and professional fucking composers and these people to do these amazing graphics, which you can't see on a small monitor. Why can't people just fucking admit that direct capture does not work for a person who's in a living room, who's on a normal TV, who's with normal speakers? It doesn't fucking work. Why can't people admit it? No, my setup, you're the exception. No, fuck you. Seriously, fuck.
And once again, as Phil will go on to prove, by using direct capture, it does work. It's just a tiny inconvenience they have to wear headphones. That's literally what he's arguing about. And him saying that, no, there's a reason why I did it the way I did. Yeah. Because because you focused on maximizing your personal enjoyment rather than focusing on what you're supposed to do as the person who's in charge of a business, providing the best products in the most efficient manner for your customers, for your audience. That's what this whole thing, and again, it just keeps coming back, and you can say no one should be surprised at this point that he just keeps focusing again. And this has been, as I've already said 100 times, this has been his problem since day one. He's just looking at it as like, the whole point of me getting a job is to maximize my personal enjoyment, not to not to grow the business, not to make sure I'm on the cutting edge when it comes to being competitive, not to make sure that I have a unique hook that will lure people into my content creation and make them enjoy my content, and that way I'll stick out in a way that that viewers at large will enjoy. No, none of that shit. I want to do it this way because that's the most fun for me. Ugh, jeez.
Fuck you. No, direct capture doesn't work for normal people who just want to sit and play a game. It doesn't. It's an expensive, it's a complicated, it's a time-consuming procedure, and it's not easy to do. I'm tired of people making me the scapegoat, saying, oh, look at Phil. He got big on YouTube, but he still uses the camera, and so fuck him. No, fuck you.
And again, that is a thank you, Phil, for proving my point. Again, 2013 Phil, yeah, and he's exactly the same way in modern days. When people say, "I don't like your stuff," because you're not doing it, you're not catering to our needs and our desires. You're not catering to the way we want things to be done, like everybody else does. And he's like, "Well, fuck you, then get out of here." And again, him saying it doesn't work, when he would literally go on, like 2 weeks from this point, and he would just start doing direct capture, like nothing. Yeah, he would just go on and do it like it was nothing. Oh, jeez. Again, I know it's 12 years ago, but it still amazes me. It's still awesome to this day to go back and see the greatest hits like this. And him just fighting tooth and nail to defend a point that's indefensible. He's like, oh, it's like, dark capture, it does not work for normal people with a big TV. A big TV has nothing to do with it. And again, him saying, oh, that's not how gaming is supposed to be. Well, again, you're not a gamer anymore. You're a content creator. It's apples and oranges.
Seriously, fuck you. Why you gotta get on my fucking case?
Because you're insulting everybody who disagrees with you. That's why they're getting on your case. And because this is your job, and because you're the head of a business that is way behind technologically and way behind in terms of the culture, in terms of the way things are done, and you're shitting on everyone who disagrees with you. That's why everyone's on your case, Phil. Okay, I think I've made my point on this part. Yeah, pretty epic that he would act like this, and that and that's what's amazing is he still acts like this too. He still pulls shit like this to this day. Not just with like the whole mini PC fiasco from, what was it, 2024, but I mean now when he had his fiasco with his new PCs that he got after making a shit ton of money working with Kino Casino. He was acting like a spoiled brat and talking down the people and saying, you don't know what you're talking about, fuck you, you're an idiot. He just never stops. And then he's shocked that he gets no support in his streams, and he'll say, oh my god, it's so terrible, I only got $2 in 5 hours, oh my god, this is terrible, what happened, guys, why aren't you supporting me? Yeah, it's like, this is why you are where you are. Anyway, with that being said, okay, this is the last part from the Evil AJ video, and this one's classic. Phil spewing out the biggest pile of bullshit ever.
To make money. Now, I'm here to inform and entertain you, and I want to continue to do that.
Bull fucking shit. Do you really think your audience would care whether or not you had to put on headphones? No. Now, do you think they would care whether or not the video looks like this, or looks like some shitty home movie from like the 1980s? Absolutely they do. And whether or not there's all kinds of weird, ear-piercing noise in the background, or if it just sounds like nice, clean audio. Like, come on, dude. Like, what a crock of bullshit. Okay, well that wraps up the Evil AJ video. Okay, now before we wrap up this hour-and-a-half long video, one thing that Phil was 100% right on is that there was one way in which his camcorder style of doing things was I would say objectively better from a quality and an entertainment standpoint. And it's not what Phil has argued. Not only in the videos I've shown, but in other things, I was like saying, oh, you feel like you're right next to me. It sounds like when I'm talking, it sounds like you're right next to me, and how cool is that? No. It was something else entirely. It was because since he would have his camera on the coffee table on a camera stand, every time he would slam his fist or slam his controller on the coffee table, you would actually see the camera shake, and it was absolutely hilarious. I'll show you just a few examples right over here.
Oh, come on. It's frozen. My game is frozen. Oh my fucking god. What? I hit the girl. this stupid fucking mission. This mission sucks. I failed the mission again to this car. Yep. Fucking stupid game.
Alright, let's wrap up everything tech fails related about the capture card saga and the capture card catastrophe of 2013. First off, Phil fought tooth and nail, made up every bullshit excuse in the book to avoid doing something as simple as getting a capture card and getting software and all that stuff. And yeah, I've debunked pretty much all of that. And also, we've shown that Phil doesn't even know how to follow basic instructions. Because I literally showed, not once in this video, but twice, that in order to do this, in order to set up an Elgato capture card to deal with the HDCP issue, you either, as I mentioned early on, you either need a splitter, which wasn't readily available at the time, or you need to set it up with the D-terminal setup. And yeah, and most likely that's why Phil's TV was flickering like crazy. As well as there's a few other pitfalls of things that you gotta be careful of. You gotta make sure that when you set up for D-terminal, you don't just change your display settings, you also have to change your sound settings as well. That's one thing that, to be fair to Phil, is not mentioned in the instructions, but it's something that you can pretty easily find out yourself. Because I showed how, even to this, not only back in 2013, but also in the modern day in 2025, there's all kinds of Q&A and frequently asked questions pages that'll give you tech support and troubleshooting any problems you have with your capture card. So that is a non-issue. And we also debunked the whole nonsense of like, oh my god, the Elgato capture card is not working because Chris Furtado and Teo, they built me a Lemon PC. I debunked that by showing the specs for my much, much crappier laptop that only had half as many cores, half as many threads in the processor, and had shitty integrated graphics as opposed to what by comparison was a GigaChad graphics card in the Furtado PC. It had twice as much RAM. So by any standard, if I could run it on a PC that's dog shit by comparison to his, clearly it's not the Furtado PC's problem. That's not the issue at hand. We've also run through his whole arguments of how, well, this is not how gaming should be. Gaming should be the way I'm doing it right now. And we've debunked that several times and showed other people like Hellfire Comms and how they showed their arguments of how, like, Phil, it's not about you. It's not about your personal enjoyment, it's about your ability to produce quality content for your audience, because that's your job now. We've debunked that one a million times. And we've also just gone through how it's relatively straightforward to set it up. And sure, even though installing the drivers and stuff, you gotta just double check and make sure to do that, as well as a couple other little things you gotta double check, but it's relatively straightforward. And how at most it should take you, if it's your first time doing it or for the first time in 10 years, to set up an ancient capture card, it should take you at most an hour and a half. And we saw Phil, it took him 4 fucking hours and he still failed at it, which is just legendary. It's amazing how that's even a thing. And I'm sure you all enjoyed me bringing in how the Sons of Kojima roasted him for his dumbass philosophy that he still holds to this day, that I need to buy something, I need to go and buy something before I can know for sure if there's even a prayer that it'll work. The biggest dumbassery of all time. And that famous line of Fred just repeatedly shouting, "A Google search! A Google search!" is classic, because that's literally the answer. Like for most problems, you can find the answer with a Google search within 2 minutes. It's literally that easy. And I even mentioned, like, you could do this back in like 2006 when you were doing a homework assignment for like history class or science class or whatever. It's literally that easy. And him just wanting other people to do the work for him, to solve the problem for him, it will never cease to amaze me. How this guy can even tie his shoelaces, let alone drive a car or like turn on a computer. It's astounding to me. Well, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and trust me, there's plenty more to come. Because in the next 2 weeks, we're going to upload episode 3 of the Tragic Comedy series. So stay tuned. Not going to spoil what it is yet, but get ready. Because this episode is going to be also a lot of fun. This is Age of the Tractors. We'll see you next time. Hi guys. Want to see an awesome video? Click on the left. you want to see my other documentary videos on Darkside Phil, click on the right. As always, remember to like, subscribe, and ring the bell.